back, Growing the McElroys. We're excited to be here with you and talk a little bit about NICU awareness, because we know September has a lot of different things going on, right? So we have PCOS, we have NICU awareness, and we're going to do a little bit on both. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the NICU experience and our journey through the NICU.
Yeah, so as everyone knows, Lauren was born at 23 weeks and 5 days, and she was 1 pound and 5.5 ounces. And our first stop was at McGee Hospital in Pittsburgh. Lauren was born there unexpectedly. I went into labor, and the process was a little overwhelming, I would say. A lot of doctors came in asking what they want to do, or what should they do, or what we wanted to do. So that part was very overwhelming because I was at the hospital by myself.
Yep, I was in New Mexico, 1,400 miles away, because we were definitely out way earlier than what we thought we would be.
Sure, we were expecting Lauren to arrive July.
July 24th.
July 24th.
April 1st is when she decided to come. April Fool's, baby.
So joke was on us, I guess. But the NICU experience was definitely high and lows. We had highs and lows. It was good and bad times.
Yeah.
After having Lauren via C-section, because she was breech, so we had to do an emergency C-section. My husband was on the first thing that he could get out of New Mexico.
True. 3 flights.
It took, what, 24 hours to get there, or a day journey?
It was about a day to get there. Not fully a day, but it was a long trip, and a lot of different things were happening via phone, which is terrifying, right? Because we're at 23 weeks and 5 days. We're just a week past viability, and the questions that are coming through the phone were, pretty exhausting. Like, do you want to save the baby? Do you want to do everything that you can, or do we just want to call this quits? So it was really traumatic, from a husband's standpoint, not being there. First and foremost, is our first child after 3 miscarriages, and now it ends up that I'm halfway across the country, and she is by herself with family on the way, but still there by herself for a period of time.
So yeah, that was very overwhelming, but I think I definitely conquered that, and I made it through. So first day in NICU, we had to get oriented to the NICU process. Yep. The staff was great. We had time where we were talking with the doctors as far as what the plans were for the day, what they were going to be testing for, what they were going to be looking for. The nurses was very personable, had very great bedside manners. They were able to allow us to look at Lauren, touch Lauren, help with Lauren's care. You had to wash your hands going in, foam and plastic bags, just because you want to make sure all the germs that we bring in, coming in and out, did not go to Lauren to cause more harm or danger to her. So that process was definitely new for us. I think it was very overwhelming as the days went by.
It wasn't new for us washing our hands.
Yes, sorry. But as far as the foam being in the plastic bag, but also everything we did, we have to wash our hands. So after we opened the incubator and did whatever care we did with Lauren, wash your hands. And
the incubator was a venture on its own.
Yeah.
Like, that was something brand new. I mean, you see them on TV, but it's a different experience when it's your little one, and you're trying to figure it out. And Lauren's skin was almost like rubber, and they had told us at that point in time, like, her nerves are really close to the skin, so touching her, you can do it, but it's maybe not the best idea often, because you don't want to cause her any undue pain or harm. So there was a lot of kind of scary moments of like just wanting to physically touch the child, and I don't think I touched her until like day 3 or so.
Yeah, I think the first diaper change for me, even being a nurse, I think I was more nervous. The diaper was actually backwards, so I can't.
In my palm of my hand.
Yeah.
And it was backwards.
And it was backwards. And I told her, be patient, Mama will get this. And I'm a pro now. So the NICU journey, as we continue to venture off, there was definitely days where we definitely had gains as far as her doing well and moving in the right direction, and there were days that she wasn't so well or wasn't moving in the right direction. But we're truly thankful for all the staff that was at the hospital that really educated us, because even being a nurse is different when it's your child. And so having that discussion with the doctors, having that ability to talk to them at the bedside, I think that calmed us down a little bit more as far as anxiety that I had personally through the journey. And then also as well, it kind of gave me ease that I know people who were taking care of her actually cared, because they came and talked to us And you can kind of tell the relationship that they were able to grow with us as we were venturing off in our NICU journey.
Absolutely, and relationships are key. I mean, one of the things that was really important throughout this process was really learning our nurses, learning about them, as personal as possible, as much as they were willing to share, and then also about ourselves and making sure that we were vulnerable with them. Obviously, they're seeing us in kind of the worst moment, but best moment at the same time. And what was pretty amazing was that in our NICU journey between, the McGee Women's Hospital in Pittsburgh and when we made it back home to Columbus and Nationwide Children's, everybody was pretty on top of it. I mean, they were really personable. Folks were wanting to really build that strong relationship, and we got to a point where nurses would sit down and chat with us and laugh, talk about work, talk about whatever was happening and going on in our family. And I think that really helped us to get through this process a lot smoother.
Yeah, so our journey was 127 days.
127 days. But there are other people that are out there that are going through a lot more. So I would definitely encourage, get to know the families around you as much as possible and check in, because not everybody is as fortunate as us that we were able to be there bedside day by day. And some families would only be able to come in on the weekends because of work or because of other obligations. So it's really cool to get in and know their families as well, and build that sense of community while you're there. But continuing our journey within the NICU, we had the experience of being in Pittsburgh for 60 days from the birth. We lived in a Ronald McDonald house. That was an experience all of its own, because we were in the process of moving back to Columbus, Ohio, but we got stuck because our child decided on a 1-week training that she would go ahead and pop out there in Pittsburgh. So at one point, we actually got to the space where we were discussing being at home, and one of the nurses said, we think she is at a point where she can go home. So if you all want to look at life flighting her, that's an option on the table. And so, that brought up a whole different set of emotions, because now you're talking about flying, you're not able to be with the child, you have to drive on your own, 3 hours between Pittsburgh and Columbus, and yeah, the waiting was pretty treacherous. So at one point they told us that she was going to maybe potentially go in an ambulance, which we would be able to follow behind. But then Nationwide Children's here in Columbus decided, no, we're gonna fly a helicopter out and pick her up and bring her back. So they actually told us to leave before the helicopter got there. So that was a long 3 hours. And then even after the 3 hours,
waiting for the call.
We had to wait for the call that the helicopter actually arrived, picked her up, and was on the way back. So I think all in all, the transaction was maybe about 5 to 6 hours of time.
Midnight. We were actually at midnight. That's when she was actually admitted to Children's Hospital. And we were in the NICU there. And I think the nurses were saying, you guys can go home. We're like, no, we're going to tell you all about her.
We had to make sure that we got everything in. I mean, from transporting the milk into the facility to, even just being there when she arrived and seeing the nurses coming in and the experience that she had. Their onboard nurse on the helicopter was so proud to tell us that she had done an amazing job. And looking at her coming in, you could barely see a baby in this entire, cart that was coming through. But, she was in there, she was doing well, and we were super excited about that.
Yeah, so Laura was just a rock star. I mean, to just look at everything that she had to go through as far as the NICU journey, I think that's what encouraged us as we were, going through the journey, was that she was just fighting. And so we wanted to make sure that as her parents, that as we went through this journey, that we also remain one as a husband and wife, but also that we were able to grow strength from her to really help us go through the journey. Yeah,
because you're sitting there watching it and feeling it, but you never know what they're feeling and seeing. And thankfully at that young age, they don't necessarily remember it. So that's kind of the thing that you have to remind yourself, hey, you remember this, but they don't. And although there's some situations that may not be so pleasant, there's still things that will go on. Lauren pulled her intubator out at one point in time.
She extubated herself and mommy ran out the room.
She pulled it out. Chanel disappeared. She's the nurse, and I'm staring on. Where they at? Where they at, though? No. But yeah, she ran out, and I had to stay there with the nurse and doctor as they put it back in.
They're looking for her, like, where's mom? Mom is out.
She ran.
They probably didn't see my feet. keep moving because I was out. There was days where high and low, and unfortunately, there was some things I could handle and be at the bedside. There were some things that I had to process, either maybe go journal or go walk, or we took lunch, because at that point, it was consuming of me and making my anxiety a little bit more high.
Yeah, so always find a few things that, you know, can really help you to be calm, the things that will help you to, you know, just separate from the moment when it's becoming a little much. And that will definitely happen throughout this experience. I mean, 127 days was a long time. We spent 60 again in Pittsburgh and the remainder here in Columbus. But through all in all, like, we had an amazing staff that took care of our daughter, and we cannot thank them enough. We're so excited when we get to see them, whether it be on social media or if we go in for a checkup appointments and we see some of the nursing staff that got a chance to take care of her. It's so amazing just to know that we have this family that is built for her.
Yeah, and I think when you say social media, there's a lot of groups that they will have as far as the graduates that you were able to still be connected to the nurses, and also the families that you meet on the NICU. And I think that's great to see how many people graduate and see what they're doing and how they're developing, and that's so cool. You know, your pod mates or your neighbors that's next door, so you're like, hey, yeah, I remember you. It's just amazing that when you go and post, like, Lauren's turning 2, people always remember, like, yeah, we remember exactly what room you were in. And so that's that connection that Brendan was saying that makes it so personable in the NICU journey, is that the nurses remember exactly what room you're in. And we've been gone now for almost 3 years. Yeah.
Going on.
Yeah, almost 3 years. So it's just great to have that connection through your journey as well, because the NICU, it is a journey. It's a journey that will make you strong, for sure, and then make you OCD about washing your hands.
Very true. So we hope you enjoyed this little conversation about our journey. Come back later on. We're going to talk a little bit about do's and don'ts in a couple of days, and some things that you should definitely participate in, and some things you should definitely avoid, so that way you don't put yourself in a worse position. All of this again during NICU Awareness Month here in September 2021. All right, y'all. So keep on following us here on Growing the McElroys. We're so excited to have you, and, you know, like, subscribe, all those good things, so that way we can keep up with our journey.
Hit the like button.
Hit it. We'll show y'all some behind the scenes when we get ready for all this good stuff. But we will check y'all next time. See you later.